Hi. So welcome to Men's Couch, Dr.
Frank Hartle,
and
Rob, Ambrosini.
yeah. So today we're going to talk about mental health in regards to um, you got your field. So your field is
My field is criminal justice and cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So a lot, but majority of my career has been in law enforcement.
okay, and yours you mentioned it before.
Yeah, mine too. I'm 24 years in the FBI,
Okay.
and then here I teach, criminology, things like that, and forensic psychology. So yeah, mostly with law enforcement.
Yeah. So first I want to ask, like, how much, like, you subscribe to Men's Couch. How much have you seen, and like, what have you seen on Men's Couch?
I think just the topical conversations about what's
Yeah.
going on and issues related to men and other
Yeah.
things. So which is good.
Yeah. What have you seen?
I haven't really looked at it too, like I just subscribed and kind of looked through the list of things, but I haven't really watched it.
Okay. Cool.
I will, I promise.
But you do a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
mental health advocacy
Yeah.
for it, right? That's predominantly what you do.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
the main thing, because
Yeah.
I feel that I feel like since COVID, like, the conversation has kind of started, but I feel like it's not widely known. And I'm curious to know, like, your perspective on men's mental health, and given the fields that you work in, and also just maybe, like, what have you seen past and present on the conversation of men's mental health?
Do you want to go first?
You know.
Well, I think it's unique in our field, men's mental health is because it's very type A field, right?
No.
Except for him. Dr. Ambrosini is beta. But no. So like in law enforcement in general, in the criminal justice system, you don't talk about the things you struggle with, right? And as Rob will tell you, there's a real high level of suicides in our profession because of it. Because you internalize a lot of things. You see a lot of death. You see a lot of evil.
And that's a trauma.
It's definitely a trauma thing. And so, law enforcement's a microcosm, but men in general don't want to talk about their feelings,
Yeah.
right? They're worried about talking to somebody. And of course, for us, there was always the fear that we were going to lose our badge, our gun, our jobs because we're struggling with something, right? Maybe post-traumatic and something we saw or whatever. And for, at least I'm a Gen X guy, right?
Yeah. Gen X. My dad's Gen X.
Yeah, so I love my dad. He's
Kinda
wonderful.
dating us, yeah.
But, we didn't talk about our feelings. We never, it was like, it was just like, toughen up, rub some dirt in it, you know what I mean? And move on, and so I kind of grew up that way too. And, my wife and I have really tried to, we have 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. We really tried to talk to them more about what's going on with them and their feelings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and just to go along with that, I think coming from our background in law enforcement, your identity is so heavily tied to your job, right? So when law enforcement officers retire or move on, unless they have a plan, they're kind of stuck with, this whole side of me is now over. Like, what is my role now?
Is it like that question of, like, who am I?
Yes.
Now that I've completed that role, like, what's my, like, connection with purpose and society?
Yeah, and part of it is too realizing, like, you are not, like, your badge, you're not your credentials. I mean, that was a period of your life. It was very involved. It was a significant part of your life, and your families, go through that as well. But what happened, fortunately, I don't want to speak for Frank, but at least how I'm looking at it, like, I found like another area where I can serve that kind of help through that, and also just having a wonderful family. Is really helpful, especially with the whole identity thing, right? Because we have these roles, like you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a law enforcement officer. So what role is it? And just being able to say, okay, I served in this particular capacity, and now I'm moving on to something else, and not just being tied to like that one single identity. Because I think that's when it becomes really difficult to retire from a certain agency that you worked in for like 25 years.
Wow. So, do you feel that men can get like trapped in roles and then feel that that is like our identity?
I do, because I think society does that. I mean, look, we always label people,
Yeah.
right? Oh, he's this or she's that. I mean, that's what we do. It's kind of like human nature to identify this person as a particular function. And I think that could be good in some respects, because you want someone to be like, yeah, I really identify with the core values of this particular job.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes problematic when you have to leave that job,
Yeah.
right? And then you're still that same person, but now you feel a little bit empty. You're kind of like
That's
an
like
empty
an
vessel.
adjustment.
Right, so it's like an
Yeah.
adjustment.
I mean, for me, it was a good adjustment. I walked away, and I was in my mind, okay, that was part A of my experience,
Yeah.
and now I'm moving on. But I think it's human nature, especially for men, to categorize everybody,
Yeah.
right? And we really try to, at least in our introductory classes, to try to break out of that mold and say, I know where your positions and your principles are, but let's start looking at some other ones, right? And let's talk about them. And I'll be honest with you, for the female students, it's easier. The male students kind of sit in the back and they're quiet, and I don't know if they're digesting what they want to say, or they're just afraid that if they say something, they're going to be vulnerable or be wrong.
It's probably that piece, because I feel like for men, we might have such like rigid roles and rigid ideas of just expressing ourselves, that when we are actually given that safe place or that opportunity, it kind of like, well, we don't have language, like what do we do now? So
yeah, another thing we talk about, at least in my when I was teaching the intro courses, and I haven't had a chance to do that, is my first lecture was always about the miracle that it is that you are here today, right? What it took throughout history, from the time humans started, that all your ancestors lived through whatever they lived through, and then the reproductive process, which is a 1 in a billion, maybe 1 in a trillion thing.
that is definitely
And that you're here for a purpose, right? You have a purpose here, and you shouldn't be contained by the labels that people put on you, right? Because you're more than what you label yourself, and you're more than what other people label you.
Yeah.
And that's hard for even me to still do today,
Yeah.
because you have to continually do it every day.
That's interesting, because like we're at different stages. Like I'm a college student, and you guys like are in like different stages of life, and I feel like it's interesting how like your identity changes through different stages. Do you find that it's hard to like adjust through different stages?
Find a nice way to say that we're old.
Yes,
but
we are old,
which I appreciate. I know Frank appreciates it too. But yeah, the different stages. I think you just appreciate different stages of your life. And to go back with what Frank said, it's really important to say your whole self-worth is not tied up in your job.
Yeah.
And I probably think that's. I was trying to say that earlier, but it didn't come out that way. But that's a big aspect.
Or your
of the
sex, or your
position.
color, or your natural
I think it's
origin.
a big thing for men is to tie our work to our job or career, and then we kind of become like workaholics.
Yeah, we both. I know this for a fact. When we both seen people in our professional careers that probably sacrificed their families for their job.
Yeah.
And remember, your family serve with you, and they're the ones that you go home to when you're done, and you cannot leave them for granted. They are part of this journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go off what you said. I was that person. Like I always worked 2 jobs, and I felt that I did identify with my job. I still do, but I always felt like the reason I'm always working is because I had this mission and responsibility to take care of these people, right? My wife, my children, everything. And that becomes a huge responsibility, and then adds a whole other layer of anxiety and stress to your life, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you get older, or old guys like us, and then you reflect back and go, "Oh my gosh, I missed this, and I missed that, and I missed," and then you start to there's a level of guilt you start to feel, and you have to tell yourself, maybe I could have been there more, but I was also fulfilling a function in this family
At that time. So I feel like too is also once you come to a realization, there's an opportunity to kind of shift focus. It's like maybe in that season of my life, I was like focus on work and that aspect, but now that I might have like more time, or like I switch careers or switch jobs, I might have like more time for other things like family or anything else.
Yeah, and I also think too, there is a season for everything. Like you kind of go through. There's a time when I definitely knew the time when it was ready to retire from the bureau. When all the fun things I used to look forward to suddenly became very annoying. Right? Yeah, and I was just said, there's other things I really want to do and try different things. So there's a season for everything. And at least for me, I fell prey to the idea of I'm gonna do all these things in there because there's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better just to kind of sit back and have things come to you and just, it's kind of meant to be, so to speak, rather than finagling something to work out the way it should. You're just kind of sitting in that space of just, I'm going to take this all in, and it's a little uncomfortable now, but something's going to be, an opportunity is going to prevail at some point.
Do you find that it's hard at first to, especially if you're like, I guess like a type A, or like you want to like always be focusing on like the next thing? You find that it's hard to be in that space where it's not that you're not productive, but you're kind of waiting for an opportunity, or you're allowing, like you said, whatever happens to come your way.
Yeah, I would say that Rob and I talk about this a lot. We're both restless spirits, and we have to talk each other at the ledge sometimes, right? Like we take on too much, or we want to do too much, or we're thinking that maybe we're spinning our wheels in certain positions, and we do it. And so we really have to lean on each other, and other men should do this as well. And sharpen each other and say, you have a huge opportunity. You're really blessed. You're doing. I think you are where you need to be, but or say, yes, that's a great opportunity. You should pursue it because that's going to be great for you and your family.
Yeah.
But talk it out, because if you have this, if you're a restless spirit and all you want to do, you feel like just when you accomplish something that you need to do the next thing. Sometimes the best thing to do is just step back, think about being grateful, and then
for where you are,
and then really talk to people about, A, B, and C. If I do this, second, third order consequences, because my mind doesn't work like that, right? I just want to run through the door and do something, right?
Yeah, and to go along with that too, I definitely don't relax well. Like my day of relaxing is I'm gonna go run or do bike. We'll do all these things. Like that's how I relax. I just don't sit well in like the silence.
Yeah, no.
I don't at all. My family tells me that all the time.
So I'm a huge. I don't know if Angie, you could attest to this, but I'm like a huge kind of not like do nothing person, but I like to chill a lot. But it took a while for me to kind of get into to program myself to be like in a natural state where I'm just sitting there looking at I have this like fake fireplace machine. So like usually like I'll just like relax and sit there. For me, initially I found it difficult because I felt like, okay, if I'm like sitting down, that means like I'm being lazy, or like I'm not being productive, or like I always had that mindset, or I always need to be doing something. Do you find that that contributes to it, or is it more of like people find like different ways to relax?
I think I know the answer to this, but you can ask Frank. If I sit at the beach.
Your answer is your answer. My answer.
If I sit at the beach, I can sit at the beach for how long before we have to get up and go walk? Or
maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
if that.
Like I love the beach, right?
My wife sits.
Yep, I'm sitting. Okay, let's go take a walk. I just can't. I can't do that. I'm just like not that person. Yeah. So I do have to work. This is one thing I'm trying to work on in retirement. Like this is my retirement job, obviously teaching, but like in retirement to be like, okay, maybe less is a little bit more. Like I don't have to do all these things, but like for some reason I just don't relax well. I have to do stuff to relax.
Yeah. Because some people like relaxing is doing things. Like for me, relaxing is doing nothing. Like I don't like to. If I'm relaxed, I need to just be on the couch. Angie's doing whatever. Like my friends are doing whatever. I just like to just chill on the couch. Nice couch, but this kind of thing. But for other people, I mean, there's like a balance. I feel like because for other people, relaxing is doing that. Sometimes it's doing more things.
Mhm.
But then there's like in your case where like some people like can't even like sit down for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like for me, if relaxing to me is taking very long hikes in the woods
Yeah.
alone, because then
I like hiking too though.
yeah, and I try not to take my earphones
Yeah.
because I need, and this is very hard for me, I need to be alone with myself in silence sometimes
Mhm.
so that I can think about the things that I keep pushing down when I'm listening to the radio or watching
Yeah.
TV or whatever. So long walks, fishing for me is relaxing.
Mhm.
And then I'm sure I'm not the only one that goes through these, like, I get on YouTube and I'm there for 4 hours just watching the dumbest
I don't see
programs
like
ever. But they're usually, I'm learning something. It's not like,
Yeah.
I'm not watching like
do you
people
watch
beat their heads
YouTube,
off things or anything.
YouTube Shorts or is it?
No, I watch like building things, I watch
Okay.
projects, I watch science stuff.
Yeah, I like for me, if it's YouTube, it's usually just like content that's like hours long, like
Mhm.
a podcast, like
Mhm.
someone just talking for hours. Because I feel like for me that's also relaxing to just like sit and marinate with something and let that like kind of sink into your soul. Because I'm like before I would like in the past, like I would have TikTok. This is like freshman year high school. I haven't had it since. It's just like a personal thing. Like I don't like TikTok or like a lot of social media, but I find that slower content helps to relax.
I gotta promote this too. So there's a group, and my lovely bride Susan, she was the one who introduced me to this group. They do something called forest bathing. Have you ever heard of forest bathing?
No.
It sounds weird, but
It does
it's from
sound
Japanese
weird. Yeah.
culture. But what you do is in Pittsburgh Park and Rec Association has forest bathing that you can do. You go to different areas around the city of Pittsburgh, usually in like the many beautiful parks that we have, Shinley, Frick, what have you.
Yeah.
And you spend time just kind of going through your senses, like walking through the forest in silence and appreciating what you're seeing and what you're hearing
Nature.
and the nature around you. And it's just a different way of really absorbing all this. And it's really relaxing. And those are the few times when I'm like, wow, this is really bringing me down. Yeah, it's really nice. So forest bathing through the city of Pittsburgh Parks and Rec, it's well worth the class to do. We've done it a bunch of times.
What was I gonna say? I love Shinley Park. I think like to do forest bathing. I feel like now is a good time because it's like peak fall
Mhm.
foliage, so it's nice. Yeah. What would you say? So how, like going off of that? Going off of that?
E.T. Cooper just landing back there.
Going off of that, like in your careers, what would you say in regards to managing stress? How would you be like going to your family like for support, or like how would you kind of? I think you talked about, was it you that talked about like internalizing it? Like how would you kind of like approach it?
So I didn't really realize that I was stressed because I don't act stressed,
Yeah.
but I get sick or something physical happens to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that's stress, right? Everybody deals with stress different ways. Some people get short-tempered, other people
Yeah.
get, But for me, when I was taking on too much, like I have tinnitus, but it would get really loud, or my
Yeah.
knees would hurt, or something. It was just something weird would happen to my body.
Yeah.
At first, recognizing that you are stressed, and sometimes as men, we don't want to admit that we can't take on as much as we think we
Yeah.
can, right? And so getting past your ego is the first thing. And then when you are stressed, find that happy place so that you can go. And then, but most importantly, find an accountability partner, another man to talk to and say, hey man, I'm dealing with this. What do you think? Whatever. And if you get a dud, find another one. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
Try harder, Rob. That's all I'm saying.
What's
Just
like?
kidding.
What do you do? Wait, actually, can we like explore that? What do you define as like a dud?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really pointing fingers or anything, no, but so you want to find somebody who's gonna listen more than they talk,
Yeah.
right? And someone who has very similar experiences that you've had,
Mm-hmm.
and that maybe is either struggling with the same thing or has been through it, so that they won't necessarily tell you what to do,
Yeah.
but they can tell you what they went through, and maybe you can explore together what the next step is or how I deal with it, right? That kind of thing.
Do you find that listening and exploring it together is more beneficial than just like, here's what you need to do?
Yeah, 100%. Because my default is here's what you need to do, but most of the time I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
Like I've been through it, and I need to rephrase that. Like I know when he's stressed because I'll get a text that's actually 3 pages long.
3 pages
It's
long.
just like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm doing it when I'm running. I'm like, Frank, check this out.
And I'm just like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna call him later on this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know how to top that, but at least for me, was a couple of things. I agree with everything Frank is saying. But for me, I also found I had to compartmentalize things a lot in my experience. Like I had to say, okay, this is, especially like tragic things, tragic things occur, many times are out of our control. It's like in this area, kind of like in my psyche, but that happened at work, you know, and I have to do my best not to have it spill over at home. Sometimes it was challenging when you're working, say like a violent crime or a kidnapping case, and then you go home and you have your beautiful little kids running around, and you're like, oh, my heart breaks for like these parents that they don't have this. And as Frank said, you know, having someone to be able to speak with. When I was in the FBI, my office, I had like a large office, and I had my polygraph suite, but in my large office, I had this like big couch and a chair, and people would come in. I'll be in there, and people would come in and just hang out. And they're like, hey man, can I run something by you? I go, sure. Right? So it was a privilege to like talk to people. I still get calls from, you know, folks, you know, in different capacities, just to like shoot the breeze and talk about different situations. So having someone like that is important. Prayer was very important for me, as I know it is for Frank as well.
Like for people of faith.
It's critical, right? And then exercise for me, like I was one of these guys, like I have to work out first thing in the morning before I do anything. I don't care if you get up at like 4 a.m., like you gotta do it.
Like that.
And then the whole day can just crash. And I'm like, all right, I got my workout and I'll be okay. Because it's like a mindset too, like just to kind of prepare.
Get you energized for the day.
No, I want to touch on the compartmentalization thing, because I think that's a big thing for men too, especially in law enforcement. You know, when I was a police officer and a detective, I saw a ton of tragic things. You know, car crashes with dead babies and murders and all these other things. And my wife still doesn't know about those things. Every once in a while she'll learn something new, and then she's kind of like, wow, I never knew that. But I didn't want to take it home. Like I didn't want to say, this is what happened today. And my wife wants to hear all that, but I felt like I needed to protect her, right?
Of all of that, like that trauma.
She doesn't even like to see bad news on TV, so I wasn't gonna come home and dump on her, right? But going with that is that additional stress that you carry that with you, right? And so it's always good to talk to somebody else about, hey, listen, I'm still struggling with
that's been
what
in
happened
the
yesterday.
same field, or
Right. So it doesn't have to be law enforcement; it could be anything. Right? We all deal with stress different ways, right?
I think for me, as like a rising psychologist, it might be that's something to take into consideration, because things happen like in the counseling room, or like with clients, and then I think it's important to have that balance of compartmentalization. I think as men, we tend to definitely compartmentalize a lot. We say, okay, this happened, but this happened over here, but I'm fine, and then like we don't notice like what we carry. So.
Yeah, I think you have a tendency to say you're fine, but as long as you have someone that you can kind of share that with, like you can still keep it in there. Like there are places, I know this for him too, but like I'll drive around Pittsburgh or in the surrounding counties, and I will pass by exits where we went for like certain cases, and I'll be like, oh, that's where so-and-so died. And
it's in the city, I'll see, because I walk, I'm like, somebody got murdered here, I remember seeing that.
It's just a reminder, and that's the first thing that you get, but you know, it's just part of life. Like you that happened, right? And you kind of grieve for it over that particular time, but then you move on and get on with your life. But I also don't think there's necessarily any problem in, you know, remembering that because you were part of that, right?
Reverence for that.
Right. And also digest it. But you talked about accountability partners. Another really important thing for an accountability partner is someone that you can trust, that will not just agree with everything you're saying, but tell you that you're not okay. Right? That's a hard thing to do when somebody comes in and does something and you're like, you know what? I just heard what you said. You're not okay. You need to talk to somebody, right? You know what I mean?
I think for men too, it's hard. It's like that ego thing. It's hard to like have someone else say like, okay, yeah, you're kind of not okay. Like there's like issues going on, and I feel like it's important to have someone that's also like empathetic to your experience, but also isn't just like gonna like let you drown. I think it's
Right.
like there's two things that are important, and I feel like there's like I feel like there's a lot of barriers for men, and like in terms of like accountability, whether it be like in law enforcement or like any career. Do you find that to be a thing?
Well, on the first day, you know, as Frank was mentioning what he does on his first day, early on in my classes, I'll ask people like, you know, are you the type of person to be very empathetic to someone, a good listener, things like that? Because I think when they have an image of law enforcement, they have a very like type A, hard charger, I'm going to kick in doors, I'm going to do all this. And listen, there is a place for that mentality in law enforcement.
It's a character within all of us. We have to bring out sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot, you need like that high EQ, that emotional intelligence, right? So you really want that also in the officers and the agents that you're hiring. And for men, it's hard. I think it's easier for women. They seem to have higher scores on the EQ, right? But for men, we don't sometimes. Sometimes we have to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just like something.
Learn how to like develop that skill.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is that we have to understand that in our roles at work or at home, life is performative, right? And so we play these different characters, and we have to understand that sometimes we're not fully that character. And sometimes we have to put that hat on, like when my kids are bad. I'm the quiet type. Like you would think that I would be a disciplinarian. My wife's a disciplinarian. No, my kids are all adults now. But but at some point she'd come in and be like, okay, you need to do something about this, right? And then me and Dad has to come out and scream and holler. And then, but that's, for me, I wasn't really mad. It was a performance. But I just support my wife and let the kids know, hey,
this is the boundary.
This is it. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to make sure you're not doing it right? The same thing in law enforcement. Like, you know, command presence is one of the things we talk about. And if you're not really you know, like an extrovert, or you're not really strong, you have to pretend like you are. You have to come in and command the presence of it. And you might be uncomfortable with that. But again, it's performative. So, again, saying that life is performative, why it's important to get out and be quiet and listen and talk to people is because you got to find the real person in there.
Yeah.
Not all the performances that you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important, because for me, I'm kind of like you. I'm more like a quiet, like introspective type, and you're probably like, I'm not like, unless I'm like really heated, I won't like yell or anything. And I think there's like this stereotype of like people that work in the FBI or like law enforcement, like you guys are like just like emotionless, and like you're just like.
It's a role we have to play sometimes, though, especially during interrogations. You have to pretend like you're careless.
Yeah.
But what do we tell students when they first come? We always say, we're not your dad, but we are dads. So if you need to talk to somebody, you come talk to us. And if we think you need to talk to somebody beyond us, we're definitely gonna help. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we want them, because when we first got here, we really didn't do that, and we felt like maybe some people were falling through the cracks, particularly young men, right? Yeah. Like, come talk to us. What are you dealing with, right? Yeah. I'm sure we've dealt with it. I can guarantee we have. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I want to like, before we go on like anything, I want to touch on that piece of young men, because part of the podcast is definitely geared toward that. What are some things that you see like in young men that might contribute to? You seem like you have like a lot of things to say.
Contribute to what?
Like, as far as like mental health, or like maybe like just like.
I mean, I think social media is terrible for young men's egos, and obviously pornography is terrible for young men's. But you know, I'm not a stodgy guy. I'm not saying, you know, you shouldn't look at that. I mean, if you're talking to the Catholic Frank, yeah, you should look at that. But if you're talking to Frank who works here and you want advice, you know, what you see on social media, what you see on, you know, performative sex acts or whatever, is not real life. Yeah. Right. So it's going to affect you. Right. And so you don't need to compete with the person next to you in class or anybody online. And so what I feel young men today are doing is they're trying to emulate more what they see online instead of being their authentic selves. Again, I have 5 boys, right? And and they're, you know, we deal with this all the time, right? I mean, they speak a different language now, and it drives me crazy. But I love them, right? But I want them to be their authentic selves, and it's really hard for young men in their 20s to find who that is. Who is that person?
Okay, I have another question. So going off of that, do you feel that like in like as a Gen X, I don't know, are you Gen X too?
Yes.
We're the
Okay.
same.
We're
You're
the
the
same
same-
age.
okay,
Yeah.
same age. Okay.
I mean, you're older. Right?
You're a year older.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
You couldn't tell though, right? Because of my gray hair.
No,
So-
well, I
yeah.
mean, it's just a
So like as Gen X, do you feel like that like sense of competition was present but in a different way, or wasn't present at all as it is now?
I think we grew up in the 80s. We're both children of the 80s.
You had to belong to, like, you were a burnout. Well, I grew up in Florida, so you were a burnout, you were a surfer, you were a nerd.
Yeah.
Right. I was lucky enough that I played basketball, so I walked in and out of those groups, but they were very defined groups,
Yeah.
and we all had rules, and we were just like, yeah, this is how it is, right?
Yeah, so, yeah.
I don't think that's the way it is today. I think it's kind of,
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree with him. You had definitely defined groups. Like growing up in high school, I was definitely probably in the quote jock category in high school, right? And then you had other groups, like that would hang out in school. I think social media, what happens, especially with like identity, like body identity with young men.
That's a huge thing.
The amount of pressure I see I'm a father of 3 boys, right? So we're always talking about working out or weight training and stuff like that. But the amount of pressure you see in a lot of these online fitness communities for young men, they have to be perfect. And then you have these folks that are like celebrities, or like, I have 7 egg whites and whole wheat toast in the morning, and at lunch I have my protein shake.
And I get up at 3 to work out, and
Right. But what they're not saying too is the massive amounts of testosterone and juice that's probably flowing through their body that they're conveniently leaving out.
Yeah.
And people get sucked into that, right?
And they feel they need to like live up to this image that they
Right.
And if they can't, then there's something wrong.
They're
with
less
them.
of a man.
Yeah,
right. And it was tough, at least for me when I was younger. I struggled with that because I struggled with my weight when I was younger.
Mhm.
So I was always like trying to get, all right, now I'm really going to commit to being in good shape. So it was hard. But then you see what's going out there on social media, and it's the same thing with women as well. But for men, it's like these standards of you got to bench this and set this amount, and it's just so unrealistic and unhealthy.
It's definitely more pronounced.
Yeah,
now,
and I think too, like what we didn't have, like my kids call it Riz, right? You know what Riz is, right?
Yes.
And I know I hate those terms.
I don't like this.
But the thing is like in the 80s, you didn't have, like, you asked somebody out. Like you went up and said, hey, you want to go out? And you didn't look at your phones the whole time. And you didn't have to feel like you had to be this person, right?
Yeah.
My boys, like they're not just them, but I think men in general, young men, find it hard to date nowadays.
Mhm.
I mean, they're looking at apps, they're swiping, and I mean, the lost art of walking up to somebody and saying, hey, do you want to get a coffee? No strings attached, let's just talk, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Is gone, right? They feel like there has to be some sort of technological string involved here, or they have to go to the bar and do it or whatever. And I just had this conversation with my son the other night. Like, there are other ways to meet people, right, than an app or going to the bar at night.
Yeah, because it has to be more realistic and authentic.
And organic, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
organic. Yeah. Going off of that, let's talk about. I don't know how much time we
We're good. We have like 20 minutes.
have. Okay, so
You can edit
I
out
was
all
talking
raw
about-
stuff.
Yeah.
That way,
I was talking
We'll do
about.
that.
I'll talk about like. So for men, I feel like a lot of men, whether it be young men or whatever, there's substance abuse. So I feel like there's substance abuse on both sides, on like with people that you see that whether it be like criminals or people that are have like that break the law, and then like on the other side with police officers or like in law enforcement. Do you see that, or is it
Well,
just?
let me ask you a question. I'll answer it. Maybe Rob too. But why do you think people are abusing substance?
That's a complex.
Right.
That's like it's very nuanced because at least like in my peers, it's a very nuanced and complex. Some of it's trauma, some of it is just anxiety that they don't know how to like regulate.
Right. I think personally, you can agree or disagree. When people abuse substances, whether it's alcohol, weed, cocaine, whatever, they're trying to escape.
Yes.
Their own mind, and their own feelings.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I've heard from people.
Yeah. So there's and listen, when you get stressed out and you go on vacation, you have more drinks than you normally do, right?
Mhm.
Because you're trying to escape that rat race, those other things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a natural phenomenon. When you go out and you go to parties, you want fellowship, you want communion,
Yeah, that's.
but you also want to escape from what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Those are just really, really probably poor ways of
Mhm.
escaping. And to me, I think this generation, I feel like this generation is probably using less drugs than my generation, to be honest with you.
Okay, I want to touch on that.
Okay.
Like the less, like how Gen Z is like, it's like less than maybe like Gen X or like boomers.
I don't know. I mean, in the 80s, I think marijuana was like very, prevalent, but
Uppers, marijuana.
yeah, it was just out there if you wanted it,
Okay.
right? But now, I also think part of the danger that's going on is that it's so overwhelmingly prevalent and it's stronger. So you're going to have increased incidents with like
Chemically enhanced.
psychosis,
Yeah.
and things like that. And then you're getting a whole other population from prison that's
Mhm.
being released, right? Because of these like old drug laws that are
Yeah.
being released back into society. Jobs are difficult sometimes to get, right?
Mhm.
And then they might resort down to, back to bad habits. And then you
Yeah, that
have this
cycle.
very prevalent
Yeah.
drug use out there. And we're like a generation, I think like a society, we're all like dopamine junkies. Like
Yes.
you just constantly go through social
Yeah.
media. Oh, this is
It's-
great. What's the
yeah.
next thing? And we as professors,
Yeah.
we have to compete sometimes with information like on social media. Like okay, sometimes I feel like one of my frustrations is I have to get up there and entertain people with
Yeah.
with as much information as I can because you're competing with that phone, and that's just
Right.
driving this whole
Yeah.
desire to constantly be stimulated and entertained.
So is it like that constant need to be stimulated that's like contributing to stress? For
Or
imagine-
unfulfilled, yeah.
Yeah, being unfulfilled, just like in like a regular, like you go about your day and it's just like I think sometimes people feel like, oh, my life is boring because it's not like stimulating, right?
Yeah, no, I think boring is good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I struggle with boring.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah,
struggle with
I
boring.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boring is good because you get to slow down and you get to think about the things that are really important in life and maybe the things you haven't thought about.
Mhm.
But we've lost the art of being bored. Like I used to go to the waiting rooms and I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah.
But now that I have my phone, I'll sit here all day because I
Yeah.
kind of forgot that I was in a waiting room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kind of like check out.
Right.
Yeah.
But we need to reconnect to purposely be bored so
Mhm.
that we can talk to the person inside that
Yeah.
we've been ignoring and pushing down. In whatever way we do that.
Hopefully
Yeah.
not when they're in our classes.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
worry. Yeah,
I mean, you'll get bored. You will get bored, and there's some classes
Yeah,
that
there's
I will tell you,
snooze
be like,
fest.
hey, you're gonna be bored today.
Yeah, there's some snooze
Please.
fest going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like, what are some ways that you feel that men disconnect from themselves?
You mean from the people, the person inside that they're hiding from,
Yeah,
or
from like that.
no? I think we're always hiding from our vulnerabilities. Like
Mhm.
I'm 55. Like I don't want to admit that I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
But and my wife, she laughs. She laughs at me, not in a bad way, but sort of
Yeah.
like I'm a combat veteran and I've worked in law enforcement. I don't like to walk into dark rooms.
Yeah.
I get anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that stems from experiences I had, right?
Right.
And so, and she'll be like, "I'll go turn the light on for you," and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like it's teasing,
Yeah.
but there's something there. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
and at first I was kind of like, "Well, I'm pissed off about that." You know what I mean? You should be
Yeah.
more sensitive. But again, she's my accountability partner too, and she
Mhm.
can say, "All right, you're home, your family's here, you're walking." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she could talk
Yeah.
me into that. Like
Do that.
this is not
Like
irrational,
relax, you can,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
because sometimes you can get so wrapped up in rationality. Sometimes you go way up, but yeah. So I mean, I guess I don't know how you connect with that person. I mean, I connect with that person just walking through the woods and thinking
Yeah.
about things.
Yeah.
But
Same here.
we do a really poor job of it.
Mhm.
I mean, I do. I'm speaking for myself. Rob,
Yeah.
he's an expert.
Oh, okay. Thanks for.
Thank you. No, I think there's a tendency just to numb it out somehow,
Yeah.
whether it's like alcohol or constant like adrenaline, do something else
Yeah.
to kind of so you don't have to think about it. Like for me, it's more like when my neighbors make fun of me because I'll run in like the rain, snow,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. And they're always like, dude, what is your problem? Like you're always out there. I'm like, it's like the time when I think. And that's when he usually gets these like very manic type texts from me. But that's usually the time when I
should pull some up. They're
don't do that.
They're entire books.
They're long. Yeah, they're long, and they can be weird. And there's a lot of like typos too, because I'm dictating it, so it comes out weird. But I think people just tend to numb it. And my wife is always good with she gives me a lot of good information from some of her work and her studies with internal family systems and things like that.
Oh my gosh, I'm kind of into that right. Like, I was gonna talk to there's someone that wants to be on the podcast. We're gonna talk about that, but it's very interesting.
Oh, then well, she's in that circle, and sometimes I have a difficulty.
Does she work in psychology?
Her degree is psychology.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And I have a difficult time, as I've been told sometimes, just being uncomfortable in the uncomfortable, like just kind of sitting and waiting, and I'm just like, okay, I'm ready to fix this, I'm ready to move on and do this. When that is telltale of the restless spirit that we both suffer with.
And I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah,
just take that. Can you speak a little? Okay.
See, I think it's a male thing too. Like we know we have to do,
right?
But and when more people like constantly saying, "You need to do this. Why didn't you do this?" And particularly with teenage boys, and now I'm a grown man. I know what I need to do. I don't need to be reminded of it. I procrastinate for a reason sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Because I need to put things in order as where I think I can accomplish them and do the best part of it. Other times it's just being irresponsible.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you have to know the difference between the two. Yeah.
I think it's important. I think that piece is important. Is like recognizing like when it is something that like it's on your mind that you know what you need to do, but also when like taking that personal accountability, because I think that's a difficult thing for men, is taking personal accountability and recognizing when something needs to change, is like, listen, like this behavior is not the best. And I think when you hear it from your friends or whomever, like yesterday, like my friend and someone were like, listen, you need to advocate for yourself. Like that was like yesterday's conversation. And like it was something that's kind of been like circling in my mind, but like hearing it from other people, I feel like it's different, because it's like it kind of like motivates you to be like, okay, yeah, this is definitely something that I need to take responsibility for, that I need to change.
Yeah, you touch on it. I know you know this with like motivational interviewing.
Yeah.
Like, there's like some discrepancy between like where you are and what you want to do and how you have to kind of get over to that point too. But you definitely have to be a self-advocate as well. And I always tell folks too, at least in the law enforcement environment, especially when you're doing like interviews, you can confront someone, right, with information without being confrontational.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have lost that ability too.
I don't think so.
See?
See
Exactly. I was waiting for the smile. But you can confront someone without being confrontational, without doing that.
I agree. I think there's a way. Are you guys people of faith?
Yeah.
I feel like there's speaking the truth in love. There's like there's always a way to like approach it, and I feel like it gets, not gonna lie, it gets messy. It gets it can get complicated, but I think, like you said, there is a way to approach.
It's actually a requirement if you really care about somebody to do the uncomfortable thing and in love confront them on these things, which is I don't necessarily have a problem talking to somebody about something that, as a boss or as a husband or maybe even as a dad, but friends sometimes are a little more difficult. You know what I mean? Because it's a different relationship, and I think, but if they really appreciate your friendship and you really appreciate theirs, then you will be able to go and say, listen, I think you're making a mistake, or what do you think about this, right?
Yeah, like I had like that conversation I had with my friends yesterday, like of me, like of just because like for me, I have a history of not really like paying attention to like my needs. So like yesterday, I felt like my friends saw that, and so they were like, you need to advocate for yourself. And I feel like if I didn't have that accountability, then I would just coast and not really like do anything.
Yeah, and another thing that's really good for accountability partners, getting back to that, is that they will tell you all the great things that you're doing, because sometimes either, I mean, you could say we're type A people and stuff, but I don't keep a list.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
when I went for promotion in law enforcement or here, like, people had to come to me and say, this is not, like, you forgot about all this other stuff that you did, you know what I mean? Because in our own minds, maybe we're not as good as we think we are, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or,
I think that's,
but,
that's
or
the thing.
we sell ourselves short, and we block out some of the accomplishments that we made. So we're like almost like self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
So you have to go to people you can trust and say, can you look at this? Is there anything that I forgot?
Yeah,
And-
and I think that balance of like noticing someone's skill set and then noticing like their weak points, because I feel like we forget both. We forget our skills and our like weak points.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we have to be true to our weak points. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, sometimes we suffer from imposter syndrome too.
Yeah.
At least I definitely.
suffer a lot from
I
it,
definitely have that, and most of us don't like writing about ourselves. Like when we apply for
Yeah.
jobs, it's
Yeah.
awkward.
I'm
I
the,
do
I'm the
this.
greatest. I hate
Yeah,
that,
you
Yeah.
would never speak like that
That's
unless
nice.
you're like a narcissist.
Yeah.
When they're
Yeah.
out there, but like most of us,
Yeah.
we're very uncomfortable, kind of
Yeah.
lauding all of these accomplishments.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, especially when you feel like you're in a job that I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop on the FBI. Like I don't know how I
Yeah.
got in there, and quite honestly, even with this job here too.
He's afraid they're going to take his pension away.
That's right.
This
That's
is
the
a
thing.
terrible
Yeah.
mistake we made.
But you have like imposter syndrome. You
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
you really don't think you
You doubt
deserve it.
yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You do, yeah,
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to doubt yourself.
right.
Yeah.
And oh, that gets me to the this whole idea of grit,
Right.
right, is so important today. I mean, I think for men and women, right,
Yeah.
the idea that when you're confronted with something too difficult, you just give up, right? So there's a fine line between having grit and persevering through something that's difficult, and putting so much on yourself that it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
You got to
right.
find
I
that
think men do that a
fine
lot.
line right between the unreasonable grit and the grit that gets you through the day and makes you successful.
Yeah.
And I think men have a problem with that.
Yeah. I want to talk about your friendship.
Oh boy.
This guy.
Go ahead.
So, how did you guys meet up? Like, how did you guys meet?
Can I? Man?
Yeah.
So I remember Frank when I was working in the FBI. This exquisitely tan person came into my office with like this like light colored suit.
Montalban.
Yeah, literally like Ricardo Montalban with real hair. And
Before
he came in. We were talking about a case, and I just remember he was just like a super friendly person, right? And then we really didn't see each other in the.
You were downstairs and I was upstairs.
Yeah, I was in the polygraph room. They always put in the basement. You know, it's kind of like just we'll put him by the
He
exit
used
door.
to be upstairs until he took the job, and they were like, we gotta move.
Yeah, right. And I don't take it personally, but I kind of do. And then, fast forward years later, I find out about this job, and I go through the interview process, and I meet Frank, reconnect with Frank again, and it's great. And we're very similar. We have so many similarities. But we're also very different too, which makes it fun for us. And Frank is wonderful, and I bug him a lot because I'll call him or I'll text him or I'll do something.
He doesn't.
But he puts up a lot with me, especially those texts or like
I
some of
think
these
the texts are
ideas.
funny.
that
I
I
laugh
have.
at them.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I don't do is I don't respond right away because I know he wants a response. So we do tease each other.
Yeah.
If you ever go to any place where we like to play off each other.
Right.
Yeah.
I always say I'm jealous of his hair and the way he dresses because I can't.
I mean, today, come on,
I can't afford.
Yeah.
I can't afford his style.
he's looking at something. Go ahead. It's the
I
hair
was
that's messed up.
like,
So
okay,
here it
so
comes.
I actually I kind of agree because I feel like you're like that old school professor that had that's the suit
This is bureau. No, this is
Yeah.
like old school FBI.
Yeah.
Even professors are like, you don't work in the FBI anymore, Rob. You can lose the tie, and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Although I did.
It's almost like that formative person that's in us too. But no, I really love Rob. He's fun to tease.
Yeah.
I think and he teases me too.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's like I like meat and he doesn't, and
That's true.
I think it's weird that he's a vegan. But
Yeah.
other than that, like even though he's that strange, we're still really good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can appreciate the differences, right? And love each other. It's okay.
No, that was a joke, by the way. I'm being serious. Like,
Yeah.
we are very similar in that we are men of faith, but we are also very restless all the time,
Mhm.
and we want things and we want them now. But we have we have wonderful families and wonderful
Right.
lives.
Yeah.
Right.
They put up with a lot, as
Right.
you could see.
But we're also different enough to appreciate,
Mhm.
and I think
Yeah.
to play off each other a lot in these things.
How
And
do you,
he's really good at me teasing him all the time. So.
how do you feel that your friendship has benefited your careers or like just like other areas of your life?
Oh, first of all, I mean, I'll ask his opinion on stuff. Like we're talking about, having that person that you can ask questions about, like how does this sound, things like that. Also, with even teaching, it's just I think we have a really good rhythm and we have a really good style when we're presenting together with students.
Yeah.
And I think students understand this. Like they're going to get maybe a difference of opinion from the two of us because we have different, different backgrounds, but some similarities. But I think we're both there to really, really emphasize, like if you're struggling with something, you call us. Both, we're very accessible, and we live by that. Like we still do that, and we want people to appreciate that. And I think that's what we want the students to
Because you
know.
guys are that way towards each other, so you want,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you have to be like, especially in this. And I'll just say this. Sometimes I feel like academics in general put a lot of demands
Yeah.
on students that might be unrealistic, or there's a lot
I
of
think
pressure.
yeah,
And we see that in classes, it's
Yeah.
always like, oh, this one class is going on here, and I'm like, all right, well, it'll be all right, we'll work through it. So we just try to kind of be that. We tell them we're not their dads, maybe cool uncle. Like that's just kind of
But
like
you
the
guys are
role
down
that
to
we
earth.
have. Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that's like a lot of men or young men don't have, is like that down to earth person that's like that you could just go to, or that you could say what's going on in your life. And I feel that there's like a barrier where like professors or like other maybe mentors or coaches are seen as here, and then like men or young men are seen as
Yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
accessible.
I think
Yeah.
too that we view our positions differently. We've had a career, we've done it.
Mhm.
Like, we are not here for the money.
yeah.
We are the most poorly paid
Definitely not.
people in the university,
Right.
right? Because of our roles. But
Yeah.
what we want, why we're here, is because we feel that we're taking what we've learned, we're passing it on, and our students are our legacy.
Yeah.
And we go to weddings,
Mhm.
we go to graduations. Every time one of our students has a new baby, they send us
Yeah.
pictures.
I
Like
see
this
guys
is a
lot on
lifelong
campus.
relationship. Yes.
Yeah, I see you guys like a lot, like more than like other professors. I feel that having that sense of accessibility, where your role is just not just a professor, but like a mentor to students, I feel like it creates an overall better environment and community.
The whole reason, and I'll just answer for myself, the whole reason I went back to school to get my degree was so I could teach at a college.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like this environment. I
Yeah,
like
me
being
too.
part of the students and their lives. I like answering their questions. I like helping them with like, hey, try this. Maybe you don't see yourself in this role, but I see you doing something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed the degree to be able to do it. And as Frank said, like, you're not here to get rich, for
Yeah.
sure. You are here to like mentor another generation and just have a good time while we're
Yeah.
doing it, because we do have fun.
have fun,
I mean,
yeah.
that's part. I mean, look at this room. I mean, this is
Yeah,
Frank's
this is
brainstorm here
Yeah.
with the crime scene. I did put in the floor, which I'll tell you,
He did a great job.
which is
And
sturdy
he helped me
floor.
paint, all kind of stuff.
I did a few things,
Yeah.
but that's another
He helped me,
discussion.
so I nailed it. It was fun.
Okay, here we go. I was like the little. Okay, you see now this comes up. He gets these comments in. Like I was like his little assistant.
No,
He
that's
did this
not
all
true.
the time.
He was the foreman, and I was
Okay.
the laborer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Just to answer the
But
question.
what I think another thing we like to do is too, like we don't lie to students.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't tell them, yeah, you should do this major because you're going to be successful. If they come in and we don't think they're right for whatever major we're working on, we're going to tell them, hey, this might be not the job for you, or if
Yeah.
they're messing up. We're not,
Right.
we might be happy, nice, dad like or uncle like,
Mhm.
but we're also going to be like, hey man, you need to tighten the ship because
Yeah.
you're, and I think people need to hear that.
Yeah.
It's a different,
That
it's a different
accountability.
exactly
Yeah.
accountability, but it's kind of like outside of the normal academic advisor
Professor,
role.
yeah. You said, I think we're like at time, so I think this was a very fruitful conversation. I'm definitely learning a lot. I'm sure you guys are like learning a lot too about
Mhm.
just your careers and just like even talking about mental health. I think that's so important. Do we have any final thoughts?
I just appreciate. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm glad you have this forum for people. And like I said, we're always accessible for students if they're watching something, they have questions about law enforcement or life in general. Yeah, reach out.
I think it's really important what you're doing. I think a lot of men don't want to talk about knowing them, and I like the fact that you're making it like a focus of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. We support it. 100%.
Yeah. If you guys want to ever be back, I'm sure we'll probably have more episodes because we have a lot of I feel like you guys have a lot to talk about. So.
Oh, do we?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't lack to talk.
No. Just give us a subject. We'll talk on it. I mean, even if we have no idea what we're talking
Right.
about, we'll make it sound like it. So.
Yeah.
It'll sound great.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to work with you guys in the future. Yeah, this is awesome. So.